Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our application workshop. We're going to wait a few minutes for everyone to get on the call, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Looks like folks are joining us, so thank you all again for joining us. My name is Stephanie Gavin. I am one of the assistant directors with Syracuse's Office of Admission. I'm happy to introduce Denny Nicholson, our assistant dean, to give our application workshop. So Denny, over to you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, and good evening, friends. It's great to be with you. Uh, Proud to present the application workshop to all of our students and families in the audience this evening. What I'd like to start with is to personally thank Mike McGrath and Eva Bory, along with Stephanie Gavin, who are in the background, and they'll be answering questions. So we encourage you to place questions into the Q&A, and they will be responding while I'm speaking. I will conclude speaking in approximately 20 minutes or so, and then we are going to do some quick Q&A. They'll be responding to some of the questions in the Q&A during the presentation, and they will be saving some for me to answer to the larger audience, some of the popular questions. So we will try to get to every question we can, or as many as we can this evening. We do have a very, very large audience. So it will be difficult to get to all of those questions, but we'll do our best. I thought it's appropriate to probably start with a few items before we jump into the PowerPoint, and really some general advice and tips for our students and families that are out there. And I like to focus, for starters, on a message of controlling the things that you can control at this point. What you can't control are your grades from your freshman through junior year at this point. But for you seniors out there, you are in control of your performance in your senior year, and that is very important as we consider applicants for this year's class and every year's class for that matter. So control those senior grades and do well. You can control your activities and your contributions within your community. You make decisions to continue with activities or to stop those activities. Of course, we're in the corner of encouraging you to continue with those activities and making those contributions. You can demonstrate your interest in the university. We do track demonstrated interest in the admissions process at Syracuse. This is just one example, participating in this evening's event. We have you as a registrant and an attended student at this particular session. So that's a nice way of demonstrating your interest. Visiting our campus, if you haven't done so already, we encourage you to do so and hope you're able to. We do have a couple of big events coming up on November 7 and November 11 when many of you are off from school on those days, and it's a nice opportunity to come and see our campus. So again, focus on controlling those things that you can control at this point. Let's jump into the presentation. We have an outline to follow here. And no better place to start than how do you apply to Syracuse and what are the options? First and foremost, we accept applications from both the common application or the coalition application. And when applying to Syracuse, you have the opportunity to apply early decision 1, early decision 2, or regular decision. And I'd like to spend just a few minutes talking about those. So early decision 1, as you can see, the deadline is fast approaching. That is November 15th. Early decision 2 is the deadline of January 5th. We will notify our early decision 1 candidates sometime before the 1st of January. We will notify our early decision 2 candidates sometime within the first week of February. And for early decision 1 and 2, let's talk about early decision for a moment. We do not offer early action. Syracuse offers early decision, which is a binding agreement. And that binding agreement has 2 conditions to it. It's binding if, in fact, you are admitted into your first choice school or college. And I'll get to that in just a moment. And the second component to that is that you have an opportunity as a student and as a family to review the financial aid award before you're fully committing to Syracuse University. If you're admitted into your first choice and you viewed the financial aid award and it's feasible for you and your family, you are required to deposit with Syracuse University by February 15th and withdraw your applications at other universities at that time. And with that, as part of the application process for early decision 1 and 2, is the early decision agreement and form. So our student applicant must sign that along with the school counselor and along with a parent or guardian, just so everyone's on the same page with the conditions of an early decision application to a place like Syracuse. Regular decision is our non-binding option, and that deadline is also January 5th. The difference there is we do not notify our regular decision candidates until the middle of March. And again, that's a non-binding option. And so when you're applying to Syracuse, you're prompted on the application to select your school or college of choice at Syracuse. And at Syracuse, we have 10 schools and colleges to choose from. I'd like to talk about that for just a few minutes. You're going to be prompted, as I mentioned on the application, for picking a school or college. So many of you in the audience tonight are aware of the major that you're planning to pursue in college. And if that's the case, let's say, for example, you're interested in majoring in biology. Well, biology is within the College of Arts and Sciences. So you would list your first choice as the College of Arts and Sciences. You'll be prompted for choosing a major. You would then select biology. We then prompt you, so that we ask you for your first choice school or college, followed by a second choice school or college. And we do encourage you to list a second choice school or college. We're not able to admit every student into their first choice at Syracuse. We have many nationally ranked programs within our schools and colleges, and of course, those are more competitive. And so oftentimes, if we're not able to admit into a first choice, we're able to go and admit into the second choice. So that's something to keep in mind. And as I mentioned, I would talk about that. If your early decision or binding program and you get into your second choice, so you did not get your first choice, you were admitted into your second choice, you are not bound to come to Syracuse. You do not have to deposit by February 15th. You've been admitted to Syracuse. You can leave all of your other schools in play at that point, and you have until May 1st to make a decision as to whether or not you'd like to come to Syracuse. So I hope that sheds some light on early decision, regular decision at Syracuse. To give you some idea of the numbers we deal with, Syracuse this past year received over 47,000 applications for the coveted 3,800 spaces in our class. And how did we arrive at the 3,800 in our class? Well, we fill a third of the class through early decision. 2,500 candidates applied for early decision, and we admitted approximately 1,500 of them. And 1,300 of those 1,500 enrolled in the first year class. So roughly a third, just over, enrolled through early decision. We had another, let's say, just under 45,000 applicants for regular decision, of which we admitted about 18,000 of them to fill the remaining spaces in our class and bring us to 3,800. So if you're wondering, and we often get the question, are my chances better if I apply early decision and regular decision? Well, if you think about those numbers I just provided, the answer is a clear yes. The odds are certainly increased by applying early decision. You're competing with fewer candidates, and the admit rate tends to be about anywhere on a given year from 10 to 14 or 15 percentage points higher in early decision. We're happy to answer any questions you have about early decision. In terms of setting up your applicant portal, soon after you've submitted your application to Syracuse, generally the next day or two, students are going to receive an email to the email address they listed on their application, introducing them to our applicant portal with instructions for login. And that's where our candidates are able to monitor their applications and the documents that we've received. So if anything is missing from their application, they will know right from their portal. And when those items complete, they will see everything in their portal. We also notify students of admission decisions via an email prompting them to go to their portal to view the decision in their portal. If they have not set up their portal, they are not able to view the decision. So that's a really important piece. Once you've applied to Syracuse, you'll receive this email about setting up your portal. Be sure to do that right away. Monitor the progress of your application and ultimately view your notification letter. In terms of the application checklist and other items required, I did mention earlier you apply via the Common Application or the Coalition. We accept both. We have no preference. You are treated the same regardless of the application you submit. Will require your official high school transcript as well as a counselor evaluation and a letter of recommendation. And it's an academic letter of recommendation. So that is from a teacher. Those will all come via your school counseling office directly to us. They submit those documents along with a copy of your school profile that I'll talk about in just a few minutes. Keep in mind, for some of our schools and colleges and specific academic majors that you might be applying for, the School of Architecture requires a portfolio, and many programs in the College of Visual and Performing Arts require auditions or portfolios depending upon the program for which you apply. And lastly, worth mentioning is our test optional policy. For those of you who've taken SATs or ACTs, you are not required to submit those to Syracuse. If you're seniors in high school this year, we do remain test optional for this year's process. Uncertain where we will be beyond this year, but stay tuned if you happen to be a junior or younger in the audience tonight. And for transfer students who might be with us this evening, we do not require test scores for our transfer students as well, also test optional. One thing I wanted to go back to quickly before I move on to the next slide, and that is for students who are in the audience this evening and wondering, gosh, I'm not quite sure what I'd like to major in at Syracuse University. And you mentioned that applicants must select one of the 10 schools and colleges, and frankly, you have no idea what you'd like to major in at Syracuse. So what's the advice from our admission team? The advice would be to apply to the College of Arts and Sciences as an undeclared student for a number of reasons. The first, every student at Syracuse University is required to take courses within the College of Arts and Sciences. It's the only school or college at the university where every student must take courses. It's our largest college on campus with 15,000 undergraduate students, 5,000 of them call the College of Arts and Sciences their home college. And lastly, it's the largest in terms of academic offerings with 55 majors. So that is a very good place to start. I'll also address if you're semi-undecided, which would mean you're really in, you want to be in our business school, for example. At Syracuse, that's called the Whitman School of Management. And you want to be in that particular school. However, you're not sure which of the majors within the Whitman School you'd like to pursue. The advice there is to apply to the Whitman School, and you can pick any of those majors, or you can pick undecided within the Whitman School. And for 7 of our 10 schools and colleges, they have an undecided option within those particular schools and colleges. So completely undecided, arts and sciences undecided is a good route to go. If you're semi-undecided, the school or college, be sure and pick the school or college and then select undecided within that particular school or college. Moving on to the application essay, all of you are going to be prompted with an essay on the Common App or Coalition app where they're going to give you 6 or 7 different essay options. And the common denominator with all of those options is there's an opportunity in each one of those questions to write about yourself. And this process is about you and allowing us to get to know you as best we can. And this is one great opportunity. So, very basic 101 things. Be clear and answer the prompt. Proofread before you submit. Okay. And write about yourself. Reflect on who you are, your personality traits. We're trying to get at your passions, your strengths, what makes you tick. And so try to share as much about yourself and share those passions with you through that process. Syracuse also offers on our university page of the application a very specific question pertinent to Syracuse University, and all applicants have to pick this particular. I'll have to answer this question, and it's kind of a two-part thing. And really, what we're trying to get at here, number one, we try to get to why are you interested in Syracuse, frankly, to some extent. And the other piece is we're trying to get to learn a little bit more about your perseverance and your grit and overcoming obstacles and adversity. So share your stories with us in that regard. Be concise, share some information about your grit and perseverance and why Syracuse when prompted. Moving along, academics at a glance. In terms of Syracuse, there's just another test optional message there. I mentioned it earlier. Also note that at Syracuse, there is technically no minimum GPA that we advertise. I think everyone on the call understands it's a selective admission environment at Syracuse. But we don't publish a minimum. The average GPA is typically in the 3.8 range on a 4.0 unweighted scale. So that gives you some idea. Again, don't jump off the call if you don't have a 3.8 GPA. We admit many students with below a 3.8. That is the average GPA, and that's important to understand. And so moving along, activities. So community involvement and things that we're looking for here. Many of you and most of you have made some contributions throughout high school, and there's an opportunity on the application to share that. And when we view those activities and contributions to your school communities and communities at large, it does offer you the opportunity to indicate how many hours a week you devote to those particular activities, as well as how many years you've done that. And we focus a great deal on that, sustained contributions to your school communities and communities at large, if that's the case. And I don't want everyone to feel as though leadership is the be all and end all in this process of holistic review. In terms of holistic review, we're looking at your overall contributions, right? That's important to us. We understand that not everyone can be the captain of the team or the lead in the play or the president of the class, but they've contributed, and those are all great activities and qualities. Let me be clear about that. However, what's equally as important to us is that you've had sustained contributions in some way, whatever it is for you. For some, that means you worked a job outside of school for 25 or 30 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. And maybe there were family circumstances that dictated that particular choice. So those are things that we're always mindful of. So it is very much a holistic review process at Syracuse as we look at your activities and your essays and those recommendations from your teachers. One of the questions that often arises is, what if I have additional recommendations that I'd like to have submitted to Syracuse? You're welcome to do so. And frankly, you can send those along via email to orange@syr.edu, and Stephanie, Eva, or Mike can place that in the Q&A for you. The orange@syr.edu rather, and you can send along any additional documents, or frankly, your teachers could or recommenders could send them directly to that email account. Understanding holistic review. every high school is different. You attend different schools. I mentioned earlier the school profile. Your school counselor will send along a profile, and that's basically a snapshot of your particular high school. Gives us great information as an admission staff, such as what is the grading policy at your school? Is it a 4.0 scale? Is it a 4.5 scale, a 100 scale? Do you offer AP courses or college credit courses, dual enrollment, or international baccalaureate courses, honors courses? What percent of your graduating classes in recent years have gone on to four-year schools, two-year schools, the military, and employment? All those factors help us discern what's available to you at your particular high school. So when we read your application, you may attend a school that offers 15 AP courses. To put yourself in the best position in a competitive environment like Syracuse, yes, it will serve you well to have taken some of those AP courses. Do not misinterpret what I indicated or what I just said to mean that you need to take all 15 AP courses. That is not the case. But if competitive classes are available to you and you want to put yourself in the best position, again, it would serve you well to take some of those most competitive courses, not necessarily all of them. And that would be true of college credit courses. It would be true of international baccalaureate courses. But some of you on the call this evening might not have any APs, IBs, or college credit courses offered to you at your high school. And so that's important information that we gather from the profile. We understand in that case that you may have taken the most competitive program at your particular high school without taking those courses. And so that's on us to be fair in our process at Syracuse, and we're very mindful of that. If you have not already asked your teachers for recommendations, I assume most of you at this time have already done so. But if by chance you have not, always a good choice would be one of your teachers who might know you in some capacity outside the classroom as well. They taught you in one of their classes, but they also got to know you outside the classroom in a different setting, perhaps as a teacher or a teacher coach or the moderator of the yearbook committee, things of that nature, where they see you in a different role. And that's always a good choice. You can see the numbers that I referred to earlier. I also mentioned that some of our schools and colleges are more selective than others. So of the 10 schools and colleges, of course, some of them are more selective than others, and thus the importance of indicating first choice, second choice. There's also a third option, which is basically a box that you check that gives permission to the Office of Admission to pick another school or college for you if we don't feel comfortable with your first choice or second choice. And we always encourage students to do that. But we also understand some students might not wish to do so. For example, oftentimes our architecture applicants do not list a second choice or do not check that third box as a choice because they are architecture or bust. And we understand that. So that's a choice for you. In terms of, I just wanted to talk very briefly about the Supreme Court ruling just a few years back regarding race in the admissions process. Our staff is not able to see one's race and ethnicity when reviewing applications. So we are completely blind to that. And we do not any longer factor in legacy admission as part of our process. So unfortunately for, grandmas and grandpas and moms and dads who've gone to Syracuse University, it's not one of the factors in our process any longer. And that was a university decision made along with the Supreme Court ruling at a similar time frame. I mentioned earlier your demonstrated interest, so do be sure and keep in touch with us. A few things I'd like to mention before I conclude, which is another 30 seconds here of announcements. We are offering some classroom previews. So these are online opportunities for our prospective students and soon-to-be applicants to sit in on a virtual classroom and get a sense for what a classroom is like at Syracuse University. And they begin tomorrow, and they will run for the next couple of weeks. So that's a nice way to get a glimpse into the classroom experience at Syracuse University. you can go right to our admissions website, our events registrations, and you will see the classroom preview options. We are also, if any of you are in the audience tonight and you're applying as an international applicant, we are hosting a very specific international applicant workshop that might benefit you. And so I would encourage your attendance at that particular program that's being offered on Friday, the 14th. So again, any international students, you might be interested in attending that program. So that concludes my remarks. This is our email on the screen. I'm going to remove this in just a moment when we get to the Q&A. But orange@syr.edu, if you have any questions, you can send those directly to that email address. You see our phone number there. Feel free to snap a picture of the screen. And also you have some friends at Syracuse, so reach out to me, to Stephanie, to Eva, to Mike anytime. We'll get right back to you. If you go right to our admission page, there's a Meet My Admission Representative page, and I'll ask that one of our staff members put that into the Q&A so that you can all see, actually probably putting that into the chat rather, so that all can see how to get in contact with us. So I will stop sharing, and Stephanie, I think, is going to be ready to tee me up with some questions.
Yep, and Denny, we definitely have a few for you. So first question from folks on the call, if they're applying through early decision, and they say that they would like to be considered for another program, would that acceptance still be binding if they're offered a seat in a program that wasn't their first choice?
That is no longer binding. So to be as clear as possible, if you are not admitted into your first choice, but we do admit you to Syracuse via a second choice, or we picked a school or college on your behalf, it is no longer binding. So to start with, yes, you're admitted. No, it's not binding at Syracuse at that point. You will have until May 1, and all of your other universities are in play for consideration. If you're admitted into your first choice and you've reviewed the financial aid award and it's feasible for you and your family, which it is for nearly every candidate that we admit through early decision over the years, our numbers prove that, we expect that you will deposit by February 15th and withdraw all of your other college applications at that time.
Another question, kind of along that same line, if a student is admitted either as an undecided student or maybe into an alternative program, are there opportunities for them to change into a different school or college once they're at Syracuse?
Yes, and I'll ask that someone put the intra-university transfer policy into the chat for our families in the audience. The answer to that is yes. A student, journeys don't always finish where they begin at Syracuse. And I often refer to my own daughter, who began as a chemistry major in arts and sciences and finished her journey at Syracuse, graduating from the Whitman School of Management with majors in accounting and business analytics. So it's a clear yes, that happens. It happens frequently. A common theme at Syracuse is multiple majors, meaning students will start in one school or college and oftentimes pick up a second major in another school or college, or a second one within the same school or college, or a major in one with minors and others. But back to the original question, yes, there's what's called intra-university transfer, and my colleagues are putting that on display for you in the chat.
Right, and there is a question. So you talked a little bit about some of our dual enrollment opportunities. If a student is interested in a dual major option, how would they indicate that on their application?
Thanks, Stephanie. In fact, that's a great question, and I didn't talk about the dual. I talked about single enrollment, so that's prompting me. So thank you. As some students, so we prompt you on the application to apply to a particular school or college. One of the questions that precedes that asks if you're applying for single enrollment or dual enrollment. Single enrollment example might be you're interested in biology. You apply therefore to the College of Arts and Sciences and check biology as your major. That's your only interest, and that's a single enrollment. But some of you on the call might have more than one interest, and we'll use the same example. You want to be a biology major, but you also think you want to go on to dental school and you'd like to own your own practice someday as a dentist, and you think it might serve you well to get a marketing major in the Whitman School of Management as well. as an example. Therefore, you could check dual enrollment and apply to the College of Arts and Sciences Biology, the Whitman School of Management Marketing, and be admitted into both schools and colleges through what's called dual enrollment. And there's a smaller portion of our first year class that comes through dual enrollment. I would say clearly the large majority of our applicants come in single enrollment, and they add on to that during their time at Syracuse by picking up a second major later on or minors, what have you. I hope that helps.
There is a question as our ED1 application deadline is coming up. Some students are wondering, is early decision 2 weighed as the same interest and significance as students who apply through early decision 1?
It's a one-word answer, and it's yes, but I'll expand upon that because another question that will arise is probably, will we be treated the same financially? And that's also going to be a one-word answer, yes. So we're going to treat you the same in ED regarding both of those factors. And we frankly are pouring more resources into our financial aid budget this year to better accommodate our students and families. We understand the cost of higher ed in the landscape. So we're excited to have more aggressive financial aid awards available to our families.
And then speaking of financial aid, how soon after students receive their admission offer will they receive their financial aid package?
Sure. So a couple things I'll point out. Generally speaking, if a family has completed the FAFSA form as well as the CSS profile, and if someone could put that in the chat, I would really appreciate it. One of my colleagues, we require both forms if you're applying for need-based aid at Syracuse. If you've done both of them and there are no corrections needed, let's assume everything went through smoothly. Within a couple of days following our notification of admission, a student can expect a financial aid award. Within the body of the admission notification will be our merit scholarship awards. They will also be in the financial aid award, but in the admission notification, we do indicate to our students if they've received a merit scholarship from Syracuse. And for merit scholarships, students do not have to, you don't have to be filling out financial aid forms. It's based on your academic success throughout high school and your academic rigor, and in some instances, test scores if you've submitted test scores. So you'll be notified in the admission offer for merit scholarships.
And then kind of going back, looking at our admissions process, what we're looking for exactly during the committee's review. Is there anything in the process that may weigh heavier than other parts of their application?
Was it specific to merit or just for admission, Stephanie?
Just for admissions.
For admission, yeah, thank you. For admission purposes, what frankly weighs the heaviest is that transcript in a couple of ways. The transcript and that school profile are really important to us. What was available to you in high school and what choices did you make academically? Did you challenge yourself? And that is fundamentally the most important thing. And secondly is how did you perform within your program? And then we have all of those other things, right? And so when you're dealing with 47,000 applications, at some point, these applicants begin to look very similar transcript-wise. And that's when these intangibles become more pronounced and more important to us. Your contributions. What did people write about you? What did you write about yourself as an applicant, right? We get to know you. Have you been engaged with us? Have you demonstrated that interest, right? There's nothing worse than opening up an application to a student that we never heard from prior to the application. They were first on our mailing list and in our system the day they applied for admission. Probably not a good sign in terms of probability of admission to Syracuse University. So that will not be the case for anyone on this call because we have you all in our system and you're engaged in a program like this. So that's a good start.
And going off of that, we did have a few questions that just popped up asking for folks who are maybe farther away from Syracuse and aren't able to visit in person. How do we consider that engagement virtually the same as those in-person visits?
We do. That is a super question, and I'm glad it was asked. And I hopefully I was throwing in a few zingers about, a program like this, which is virtual. And we offer many virtual options for our families. So, frankly, I view it that everyone has an opportunity to engage with Syracuse in our process without visiting our campus necessarily, right? We've been in the process of traveling the world, our team, right? The four of us were joking earlier as we got ready for this call that we've basically all been out of the office for the last 4 or 5 weeks. So we travel the world and we've been at your high schools in many cases. So there's opportunity to engage there. We understand that not everyone has the resources to get to campus and frankly get here 10 times. And so we're very cognizant of that as well. But there are opportunities to be engaged with us and demonstrate your interest without being on our campus.
We talked a little bit about single enrollment and dual enrollment today, but for students who may be interested in studying one program, but maybe adding on another minor, are they able to add on outside of their academic school or college?
They are, yes, Stephanie. So again, you begin your journey perhaps one school, one particular major, or undecided, and you build upon your portfolio as you move along during your journey at Syracuse, which we hope is going to include a study abroad experience at perhaps one of our 5 Syracuse University centers that we own and operate, or maybe one of our 100 universities we partner with in World Partner Program in 60 other countries. So along the journey, there will be plenty of great opportunities to engage in different things such as study abroad. But that's also the time when you're, picking a minor from another school. It's one of the great things about Syracuse is you have an opportunity to take courses in these 10 schools and colleges, right? Yes, one of them will be your home or perhaps two of them. But you can be engaged and have all kinds of different interests and pursue those interests outside your main home college.
So there are a few different questions about the test optional policy and that consideration. So, Jenny, are you able to share a little bit more about maybe how many students we've seen submit test scores? Um, is that an advantage over students who maybe did not?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. It's obviously a really popular question these days, and so many families are struggling about whether or not they should submit scores. So I'm going to try and be as transparent as I can. First, let's lead with how many students, applicants, candidates have submitted scores in the last 2 years. It's been under 40% the last 2 years. Each year, less than 40% of our applicants have submitted test scores. Okay. We've also gone from a mean test average of 1280 pre-COVID, pre-test optional policy, 100% test score submission. Syracuse hovered in the 1280 range. We're now at 1380. Well, why is that? Well, of course, we're now under a 40% submission. And who's submitting scores? Stating the obvious, the students who score very high tend to send their scores to us, right? Are you at a disadvantage applying to Syracuse University and not submitting your scores? I would say quite simply say no, you are not, and our numbers would prove that. The percentage of those admitted who submitted scores is slightly higher, but those students are also really, really high scorers, so it makes some sense that it might be a little bit higher. But you should feel full comfort in not submitting scores. Now, then comes the question, well, should I submit my scores? What are the right scores? And there's probably no right score per se, but if I had to give some advice, I tend to go back to where we were on a 100% base, where our mean score was a 1280. If you're somewhere in that range, you're over 1250, you're over 28, it's going to, on an ACT, over 28, over a 1250 on an SAT, super scored, then it would be worth your while to send those scores. Again, I did say super score, and if you're not familiar with that, if you've taken the SAT more than once, we will take your highest score in each subset, and they may be from different test dates. That's your super score. We do the same on the ACT. We are getting some questions. The ACT now, for those who've just taken it in the senior year, in September, they began allowing students to choose whether or not to take the science subset. So there are 4 subsets to the ACT, one being science. And science is no longer required, but you're welcome to take it if you would like. That is your choice. We're going to treat you the same regardless. The composite scores will not change. They'll divide by 3, average, and 4 if you've done all 4 subsets. So fundamentally, nothing changes. But in terms of a policy from Syracuse, we are not requiring that you take all 4. So I hope that helps.
I know you talked a little bit about scholarship opportunities for students who are interested in consideration for merit scholarship. Do they need to submit an additional any application or submit by a specific deadline for consideration?
They do not. So the merit scholarships are driven by the application for admission. All other awards, grants are going to be based on FAFSA and CSS profile. And the deadlines for CSS profile and FAFSA match the application deadlines for admission. So if you're applying ED1, we want your FAFSA and CSS profile for need-based consideration by by November 15th deadline for ED1, by January 5th for ED2, and by January 5th also for regular decision. We need your FAFSAs and CSS profiles. So if there's one really big takeaway from tonight, if you're applying for need-based aid, is to get those forms completed as soon as possible, and definitely before the application for admission deadlines.
Okay, and it looks like we are getting a lot of questions talking about our virtual opportunities, whether it be our virtual courses to sit in on, some chances for interviews or our Q's Connects. Can you talk a little bit more about how students can find those opportunities on our website?
Sure, and maybe Mike or Eva can put some information in the chat about all of our events upcoming. We have Q's Connects, which are very short 15-minute opportunities to engage one-on-one with one of our staff members. We do have some interviews, but very few remaining at this point. So we are basically at this point about to flip the switch into application review. Now that our admission team is coming back off the road from travel, we flip the switch and get into application reading mode. So we do have a few remaining spots for interviews, but they will not last much longer. And the same with Q's Connect. So if you are interested in that, I would just urge you to go right on the site and try to get into one of those as quickly as possible. So hope that helps.
And then it looks like that was our last question for the evening.
Okay, I'll wrap things up. I just want to reinforce the fact that you have some friends at Syracuse that are on the screen here. So earlier they put into the chat, meet my representative. You should see all 4 of our smiling faces on that chat. And we would be delighted to answer any questions you have moving forward. You can also email us at orange@syr.edu. And we look forward to helping you as best we can throughout the process. We know it's anxiety ridden, and we're here to help with some of that anxiety. Thanks to Mike, to Eva, and to you, Stephanie, for taking time out of your Sunday. And thanks to everyone in the audience for joining us. I hope to see you all on campus at some point in the near future if you haven't been, and perhaps in the springtime with many smiling faces to admitted students at some of our spring receptions and on-campus programs. So thanks for joining us tonight, and go Orange.